Mayor Ted Wheeler, mayor of Portland, has not pledged allegiance to America, but instead has pledged allegiance to the protesters, the rioters that are destroying his city. So the other night, he went out to give an address, to give a speech to all of the protesters, and he wasn't met with a very warm reception. Just watch.
Please, everyone, back up a little bit here, please.
Fuck Ted Wheeler! Fuck Ted Wheeler! Fuck Ted Wheeler! Apparently, this idiot mayor, Ted Wheeler, has not learned from the mistakes of all the other stupid Democratic mayors that have pledged their allegiance to these violent rioters and protesters, like Mayor Jenny Durkin, like Jacob Frey, who in Minneapolis was asked by the protesters, will you commit to abolishing the police? These protesters asked Ted Wheeler the exact same question. Just watch.
Okay, will you commit to working towards abolishing the Portland Police Bureau? Yes or no?
No, I do not support that.
A bunch of criminals asking to defund and abolish the police. It doesn't get much better than that. It's been, something like 55, 56 days of straight violent riots or protests, as they call them. And of course, these people that are trying to deface federal buildings, that are trying to cause absolute havoc and destruction in the community. Who would have thought that they want to abolish the police? Because the police are the only people that stand in the way of them trying to accomplish their goals. And then you have idiot mayors that don't realize that you can't half-ass support the protesters unless you want to fully enact their agenda, their absolutely insane agenda, which calls for abolishing the police, abolishing prisons, giving them free housing, free education. Unless you are prepared to do all of those things, then don't try to pledge allegiance to the protesters, because they will see right through you when they ask you to implement their absolutely crazy demands. And then, of course, CNN's coverage of this has been absolutely horrendous. They like to use their very coined term, the mostly peaceful protesters. Just watch as CNN calls these people mostly peaceful protesters, then immediately shows a clip of the federal building on fire and people shooting all these illegal fireworks and projectiles at the federal building. Just watch.
We saw protesters coming out, most of them overwhelmingly peaceful, but as the sun went down, we did see some acts of destruction. There was a small group of rioters among this crowd that were setting fires outside the building, that were launching fireworks at the building, that causing federal agents to come out to launch tear gas. The mayor, as you mentioned, was there. He was part of those who were tear gassed as well. And I actually caught up with him and I asked him about this whole idea that it's federal officials to blame. He's been saying that constantly, that he wants to see these federal officers out of his city.
The mostly peaceful protesters, that's like calling Derek Chauvin mostly peaceful, with the exception of the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that he was kneeling on George Floyd's neck. He was mostly peaceful that day. The other 23 hours and 50-something minutes, he was peaceful. That was a mostly peaceful day for Derek Chauvin. But at least there was a little bit of silver lining in this whole idiocy of Ted Wheeler, who went out there to try to show his support for all these violent protesters. That idiot got tear gassed. At least we got to see that. I am so happy that that idiot ended up getting tear gassed, and he deserves it. If you go out there and you want to pledge allegiance and you want to show your support to these goddamn terrorists, that's right, these terrorists that are trying to take over your city, that are trying to burn down federal buildings, when you're asking your police force to stand down, and then you're mad at the federal officers who show up to try to restore peace and order to your city because you're not doing your goddamn job. The federal officers would not have to be there if you did your goddamn job. But instead, you want to try to pledge allegiance to these goddamn terrorists. So that's why these federal officers have to be there in the first place. Lastly, watch how this whole thing ends. After violence started to escalate and Ted Wheeler gets tear gassed and his security crew is trying to rush him to safety as you could see the fear, you could see the look in his eyes that he was scared as the protesters started to turn on him and they just narrowly got him into a safe space. Just watch. running away, fleeing for cover from the mostly peaceful protests. Well, anyway, that's my video for today. Hope you like it. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe, and I will see you all next time.